Hey, good evening, good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I know some of you are amazed to see the reminder popping up and say Gateway Church International. We are actually used to doing this in the evenings, in the mornings. Today we are here in the evening, and we are excited to have you come join us. We are excited. We are excited with you guys. It's going to be an incredible session we are going to have with all of you guys. It's a beautiful day. We are preparing for the LDC Leadership Development Conference that will be starting on the 24th in the afternoon, finishing the next day, Saturday, the 25th of July. It's going to be an incredible conference. I can tell you, we need a lot of inspiration, we need a lot of information. For us to be great leaders, we need to be empowered. And that's exactly what we are going to do. We are going to empower leaders. I'm excited that tonight we have one of our speakers. And we welcome all of you. Valerie, we can see you. Valerie Mabena, we are excited that you have joined us. And I can see people are joining in. It's going to be an incredible session we are going to have. I am so honored today to have a friend that I love so much, a young man that I admire, the next generation of great preachers in the black um, community in South Africa. He's here with us just to come share what he's going to be talking about during the conference. I want to invite Pastor Mzwandile Magagula from Impactors Church Malahleni. Good evening, Pastor Mzwandile.
Hey, good evening, Apostle. Such a great joy and honor to be with you this evening. As you mentioned, usually it's the 5 a.m. crew where we are praying, but this evening is quite different, which already tells us the tone of the Leadership Development Conference.
We are very excited about the conference. It's going to be an incredible conference, and one of the biggest challenges we are facing in the continent of Africa is leadership. And if we neglect talking about leadership, we are actually shooting ourselves on the foot. We are neglecting the very thing that is supposed to enhance and help us succeed, and also leave a great legacy for the next generation. So, Pastor Mzwandile, we are looking forward to hear from you. I know you will be talking about strategic leadership,
Yes.
Leadership in the community business, leadership in the church.
Yes.
Just in the nutshell, just introduce your subject, things you will be addressing during the conference.
Thank you so much, Apostle. And I think one of the beautiful things, I was talking to a pastor over the weekend, Mfundisi Msipa, Jacob, and he was sharing how just to really honor and appreciate the phenomenal work you are doing in equipping the next generation of leaders for marketplace influence and for ministry. And he was sharing how years ago he was part of such a conference and how that conference really marked him, and how some of the work that he gets to do now, he literally was set on fire and ignited from a conference that he attended similar to this one years ago. So I really want to say this to commend and appreciate your consistency over the years in leadership development. We are so much better for it. And the reason I'm saying this is because I believe part of when we talk about strategic leadership, it's really seeing into the future. It's beyond now. It's looking into the investment of the pipeline of leadership for the future. So part of my focus then will be around strategic leadership. What does it mean to be a strategic leader? And for me, I think when we talk about strategic leadership, as I mentioned, it's Stephen Covey speaks of how in the 7 laws of highly effective people, that beyond just chopping down a tree in the forest, a strategic leader climbs the highest tree and ensures, are we actually chopping down the right forest? Because we might be doing the right thing, but if we're doing the right thing in the wrong place, it then affects the impact of what we are doing. So a strategic leader looks at beyond what we are doing, but he focuses a lot on why are we doing what we are doing.
You know what you are what you are saying here, it's quite interesting. I'm actually reminded of this saying that you
Mm.
might be climbing a ladder, but is leaning on the wrong wall. You know,
Yes,
we're all climbing ladder, but a strategic leader knows exactly the wall that he needs to lean his or her ladder on. So yeah,
absolutely.
continue.
Yes, yes. And I think that's the key thing. It's really applying one's mind in terms of ensuring that yes, I'm climbing the ladder because we live in a world where there's a lot of movement, but less
Mm,
impact. Like it's like a lot of octopus movement. I wonder if you look at an octopus, it's got a lot of legs
yeah.
moving around, but you don't know is
Mm,
it coming, is it going? And at the end of the day, you find yourself doing a lot of things, but you do not see the fruit of what you are doing. Why? Because you are not
true.
strategic in what you are doing and how you are doing it. So the point of departure really for me will be unlocking the why, which
Okay.
speaks a lot to being aligned to purpose. Because if we talk about being aligned to purpose, we need to understand why are we on earth? Why do we do
Yes.
what as a community
Mm-hmm.
leader, why do you do what you do? As a business leader, why do you do what you do? Simon Sinek speaks of how people don't buy what you do, but they buy why you do it. Because that why unlocks a lot of difference in your thinking. Because part of what I'll focus on, and I'll share just maybe a few thoughts, is how a strategic leader thinks differently. If you're going to be a
Mm-hmm.
strategic leader, you need to think differently. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to think differently.
So what do you mean by thinking differently? For an example, if as a church leader,
Yes.
we we think alike. We do things learning from others. So what do you mean by saying you need to think differently?
Sure. And I love, and I'll circle back to that learning from others because it's also part of a level of thinking. I'll share a bit of the levels of thinking. But the first thing would be to think big picture. Because if you're going to be a strategic leader, you need to think big picture where you're able to see beyond yourself. Because if all you
Yes.
see is what you know and is yourself, then you rob yourself of growth. So the
Yes.
first place of difference is thinking big picture, where you are
Yes.
able to see beyond. One of the reasons I think even when God was gonna, most of the people that God speaks to in Scripture, He says to Jeremiah, Jeremiah, what do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Because part of what God does through a strategic leader is He enlarges your vision in order for you to see what He wants to do. Habakkuk chapter
Mm.
2, I will go to the rampart and watch to see what he will say to me. I love that scripture because it's watching to
Yeah.
see what he will say to me, which then, don't I see what he's doing? Which, I will watch to see what he will say to me. Why? Because faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. So strategic leadership, similar to Elijah, when he was on the on the mountain, and he said to the servant, "Go see." And he said, "No, there's nothing." He went back 7 times, and at the seventh time, he saw the cloud the size of a man's hand. Bese athi, I hear the sound of an abundance of rain. Even before he saw the
Mm-hmm.
cloud, he first heard it. So a
Mm.
strategic leader then has a picture that will pull them towards the future. Where Joshua and Caleb, you will go to the promised land, see the grapes which are big, see what God is calling you to do, but still have to go back and walk your journey towards what you've seen. So if you've not seen the big picture, it's easier for you to get discouraged. It's easier for you to
Yeah.
literally not be able to cast vision, which is something else we'll speak about as well, in terms of how then, as a strategic leader, do you say, like Caleb, we are well able to show people what they've not
Mm.
seen? Because now part of leadership is to lead people to a place they've not seen, but they trust your leadership. And you need to be compelled in what you've seen so that even as they follow you, they are able to see what you see. So the first point would be big picture. We need to be big picture thinkers as strategic leaders.
Mm. Wow. You know, when you talk about big picture, I think we are confronted by a lot of uh, activities in South Africa with a march on March.
Mm,
with the economic downturn, and I think this will take a lot of innovation from strategic leaders to come up with ways to survive this season. In the morning when we were praying, I I was telling them about the tuck shops that have been vacated by a lot of foreign nationals,
mm,
and our people are taking over. And I spoke to one guy who is now running a tuck shop for 3 days, and he's overwhelmed. And I
mm,
saw that there's an opportunity for us as churches in the communities to bring in those people to say, come for 30 minutes to teach you about business 101 or tuck
mm,
shop 101,
mm,
so that we don't have the situation where people inherit things and a month
mm,
or 2 weeks things fall apart. And I know the government can't do it. There are so
mm.
many protocols and red tapes, but the church is there in the community, and we have people who they just don't need a lot. They just need to say,
Yes.
this is how much is coming in, this is what you need to set aside, this is
Mm,
what you need to go back and invest in the business. So business, it's something that we can go out there and help our people. Strategic leaders, we see opportunities like John chapter 4, the woman, the Samaritan woman who came to the well looking for water. Jesus used that as an icebreaker. So I
mm.
think for us to reach our communities, these tuck shops that are now being taken over by the local entrepreneurs, this can be a good icebreaker for us to go into the communities and help them. So we'd love them to come to the conference.
I fully agree. I think one of the biggest challenges, as you are mentioning, is how when opportunity presents itself, it's a bit too late to prepare.
Yes.
And this is where strategic leadership then comes in. I remember years ago around COVID, we were having a similar conversation where I think it was even a recording that we did, and you were saying part of what sets apart a leader is how they anticipate where the ball will bounce next. And
Yes.
that's strategic leadership. Strategic leadership is able to see on the horizon, with, okay, here's an opportunity that's coming, but how do I prepare now for where I'm going? Because if you're saying I'm going there, but you're not preparing for where you are going, it's actually a wishful thing, because you don't just go to the next level as a strategic leader, but you grow to the next level. And how do you grow? As you are mentioning, being able to figure out, here they are, they've inherited the tuck shops, but they're not equipped to know how to
Yes.
manage and how to lead and how to scale and how to put around systems that will enable them not to live from hand to mouth, but to be able to grow what they do. And I'm excited because at the conference, we'll really be sharing insights and practical tools that will help business owners from a small scale to a big scale. How do you then build systems that will enable you to be strategic in your operations? And I love how you use the practical example of someone who's running a tuck shop or someone who's literally selling products. How do you then put strategies that will enable you to build and to scale your business? So most
So who
certainly,
who should come? Who should come to the conference?
I think for me, one of the questions that I'm always asked when I am around leadership circles is, are leaders born or are leaders made? And I love how
Yes.
usually when a child is born, they don't say this is a leader or this is a not a leader, but they usually say this is a boy and this is a girl.
Yeah.
That's usually what they say, because I don't think leaders are born. I believe that leaders are made. This is the nature
Yes.
versus nurture. Because sometimes there are some people who think "Ukuthi, ayazi, this is only for those, it's for pastors, it's for people who already have something going on. But the beautiful thing about leadership, honestly speaking, that it's a difference maker in any
Mhm.
environment you find yourself. Once you have learned leadership skills, they will set you apart as a wife, as a spouse, as a business owner, even as a congregant. If you know how to personally lead yourself, you become more,
Yes.
you add a lot of value even to the environment in which you serve. So, to your question directly, this is literally open for everyone. If you are a business leader, you are an entrepreneur, you are a pastor, you are a student, because you also need to learn how do you lead yourself as a student? How do you begin to think big picture beyond just being a varsity for now. One of the things which is quite interesting, and I hope we do get a bit of time to maybe speak to it when we deal with skills development, is the transition of occupational, of NATED programs to occupational programs in the TVET sector, where we look at where the education landscape is moving towards, where my N are no longer going to be there, but now we're moving towards occupational programs. How do you as a student position yourself for where the ball will bounce next? I was actually doing a fascinating
Wow.
session recently for, it was a team of financial managers and auditors for one of the mines. And one of the biggest concerns, which I found very fascinating, was because we're talking around fears for the future. And most of them, their fear was, will AI take over their jobs? Because within the finance space, there's a lot of things that AI does. And I'm like, yo, how then, as a strategic leader, do you position and equip yourself, even with AI, so that you know that can be a tool to enhance the work you do rather than replacing you from the work that you do?
Wow, that's quite interesting, Pastor Mzwandile. So this conference is actually open to everyone.
Everyone. Ugogo,
Yeah,
omncane, omdala, zonke muntu.
it's quite interesting that we are heading towards the elections on the 1st of November. And the question around is, do we have leaders? Who are we going to vote for? I think, as you said, leaders are made. John Maxwell puts it very nicely. Oh, no, it's Miles Monroe. He said, leaders are born because they are human beings, but they are also
Yes.
made.
True.
So we need to make sure that we accelerate that process of making leaders, because we need community leaders. We are in this deep mess as a country because we don't have well-trained leaders. A lot of them, genuinely, they get into politics with good intentions, but along the way, because they are not leaders with backbone, they are leaders without a vision. And where there's no vision, people perish. People end up, messing up stuff because there is no proper leadership. So we're looking forward to see you, Pastor Mzwandile, and to some of you guys that are watching us. There's a link on our information bar. Please press the link and register for the conference. It's going to be an incredible conference, and we have a set of other speakers who will be talking about mentoring young people. We'll be having other speakers who will be talking about what you've mentioned it now, Mzwandile, skills development. Yes, skills development. So we're looking forward to see you. In closing, what are your parting shots, Mzwandile?
Yeah, I think part of the thought that I had as we prepare ourselves for this conference, I think it's Abraham Lincoln who says, if I have 8 hours to chop down a tree, I will spend 6 hours sharpening my axe so that I become more effective. And I think for me, that marks a strategic leader, someone who puts in the time to sharpen their axe. Because when your leadership axe is sharpened, you become more effective. You do more in less time, rather than taking the whole 8 hours with a dull axe and you have to use more effort and more energy, but the tree is not coming down. And really, ladies and gentlemen, this conference for us is a time to sharpen our leadership axe. I love how you mentioned that the different speakers, phenomenal world-class speakers who are going to be there. It's us as iron sharpening each other. There's a conversation that you'll have with someone that will cause you to think differently. There's an insight that will be shared that will elevate your thinking, even your vision for your business. So my parting thought to each and everyone is, please make sure that you are there. To pastors and leaders of companies and organizations, it's always great to learn together. I believe there's also a special for 10 people if you register for a group of 10 instead of 150. I believe it's 1,000 rand for 10 people, which will really
Yes.
help not to have to reteach what you've learned. But it's beautiful because once the team assimilates everything that is learned, I'm telling you, it will create acceleration and speed to your organization. So to everyone, I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
Well, before we leave, we just want to give an opportunity. Uh, if people have questions, please, you can just write down your questions. We will try to answer 2 or 3 questions, because we don't want to leave you outside. We don't want to leave you behind. We want you to be part of this great conference. We actually started doing this conference during COVID, the LDC Leadership Development Conference, and we felt like we need to continue to empower our people, make sure that we train them to be great leaders. And one of the biggest thing I think we have dropped the it's not training leaders. The ANC, when it started, they had amazing, great leaders. And when you look at this generation has a lot of people educated, but very few leaders. So we've got to make sure that we fortify that area of leadership. Leadership in politics, leadership in business, leadership in our churches, leadership in all spheres of life. So I see there's a question here from Valerie Mabena. You say, what does it take to maintain being a good leader as a young person? What does it take to maintain being a good leader as a young person?
Sure, brilliant question. Thank you so much. Would you like me to take it, Apostle?
Yes,
Hope
sir.
because I'm a young person, you're gonna pick on me. So
No. I will chip in.
I think at the top of my head, what it takes to maintain, and I think this is a question, if I'm interpreting it correctly, of consistency. How do I maintain being a good leader? And the first thing that comes to mind is 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 12, which says, do not let anyone despise you because you are young, but be an example. And it mentions a few things in conduct, love, spirit, faith, purity. And I think when it comes to being a leader, I would say first and foremost to Valeria, it's not to compartmentalize or limit your leadership to age, because I think often always we think Uguti, there are certain things you can't do because you are a young leader. And I don't think it's true, because across scripture, most of the people that God used were very young when they started to rise into leadership. And 3 thoughts which I believe will help you to maintain being a good young leader. Number 1 is to surround yourself with great seasoned leaders. I think one of the things that I appreciate with yourself, Apostle, and Bishop Ndlovu, is how you have literally taken me under your wing. And just being around you helps me mature in my leadership. I learn a lot from your experience. There's so much that it does in maturing and helping me maintain being a good leader. So the first thing would be to surround yourself with mature, seasoned leaders as a young leader. Secondly, it would be to be willing to do the work. I call this the scrappy side of leadership, because I think one of the mistakes we make as young leaders is we're very lazy when it comes to leadership, because a lot of it is really practical than theoretical. There are some things you only will learn when you are in the field, but if you're not in the field, it will only be theory. So be willing to do the scrappy side, because that's where a lot of the lessons get learned. And then lastly, how do you maintain? Oh, sorry, Apostle, you can please jump on. I think
No. Continue. Yes.
Yes. And then lastly, what does it take to maintain being a good leader? I think Timothy Paulo Balel Timothy, be an example. I would say it's being intentional about being an example where you are. Where you are intentional about, as a young leader, I know that I'm an example. People are observing me, people are learning from me. And how am I setting an example to those who are close and those who are far? Because that example over the years begins to speak and it begins to compound, because leadership compounds over time. So shine your light where you are. That will enable you, I believe, to maintain being a seasoned, young, great leader.
Thank you, Pastor Mzwandile. I hope my sister Valerie, the question has been answered. Now, there's a second question here from Yangeliche. He or she says, what strategies have helped build a resilient business through difficult seasons? What strategies have helped build a resilient business through difficult seasons?
Oh,
Yangelihle, I think for one to build a resilient business is to learn to risk. Elon Musk said a very interesting statement. I know he's not a popular guy in South Africa, but he said something interesting. He said, if you have a 10-year plan to grow your business, try to do it in a year. And he
mm,
said, you are bound to fail, but you learn more in your failure than when you are in your comfort zone. So to build resilience, if you are going to stretch your vision over that given 10 years, um, it, somewhere when you fail in year number 8, you might not recover. And
mm,
but if you risk, life is about taking risks. So if you risk, it's easier for you to learn from your mistakes, and you learn a lot from your mistakes. So the strategy that you need to apply in your business is to make sure that you learn as much as you can in the first few years of your business. If you
mm,
think about it, ministry, we learn a lot in the first few years of ministry, and we
mm,
make a lot of mistakes.
mm,
And when you start to cruise, then you already have the systems that are tried and tested. But if then some of the systems, they are not tried and tested, and you are on year number 8, you will find that when you fail, you are failing at a critical moment where this thing is up there.
mm,
When you are flying in a 747, it's better for the brakes or whatever to fail, the engine to fail while it's still trying to take off, than to
yeah.
fail when it's cruising up there. So yeah, I can say that. I don't know whether you want to add something to that,
No,
Mzwandile.
you've hit the nail. You've hit the nail on the head. I think the thing I was thinking of is the importance of agility. I
Mm-hmm.
think it helps you to survive and to be resilient as a business owner. And by agility is the willingness to literally don't get stuck. And I love how you mentioned Uguti, do sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. You never fail.
Yes,
So use
yes.
failure as a launch and learning pad so that whatever you've learned, honestly speaking, sometimes your investment is not something that you can hold on, but you learn what not to do so that in future as you reinvent, you know, okay, let me avoid this, and that. So take that risk.
There's a question here from Tokozane Sibande. He's
Yes.
saying we live in the days that seems the gap between the young and the old, where leadership is concerned, is widening, and how do we close it?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. And
Yeah.
I love, thank you so much, Thokozane. I think it's Mfundisi Thokozane. I think, Pastor Ed, you are the perfect person because I know your heart when it comes to this, and I know how you actually live this out because from our context, it's you are very intentional in closing this gap. How would you answer it, sir?
I think we need to be patient with each other. Um,
Yeah.
if I'm going to be leading and afford young people, I don't have to come with the attitude to say I know it all. It's a mutual relationship. Like you see, I saw a picture of a rhino with this bird. This bird is actually grooming the rhino by eating the parasites, and the rhino knows that I need this bird to groom me, because if the parasites gets deeper into the skin, it will end up being infected. It can even die of infection. So
Mm,
when you see like this bird is pecking on the rhino, it's not actually
mm,
hitting the rhino, it's helping.
mm,
So
mm,
as an older leader, it's important to know that these young leaders are important in your life. They keep you relevant. But if
yes.
you have a kind of attitude that they are not going to teach me anything, I'm here to teach them, then that relationship will be very strenuous because they will feel like you are bossing over them. They will feel like their opinions don't matter. There are a lot of things I don't know. But by associating with young leaders, they help me ground, and they help me understand the day, the times, and to also feel like I'm relevant. So there must be a mutual relationship between the young and the old. That's how we close the gap. In most cases, the problem is not the young, because if a young person is doing something, you've been there before. You must understand. Don't judge them too hard. Just know that sometimes it's foolishness of being young. You are older. Don't compete with them. So the most cases, the gap is caused by the older ones, not the younger ones. Yes,
Wow.
the problem is not the young ones. It's actually the older.
Sure. I think also, Nati, Apostle, and thanks for taking ownership and your humility in actually owning the older side. I'll try to own the younger side. For me, Thokozane, I would say how we close the gap is humility, especially as the younger generation. I think the humility to be willing to ask and to be willing to be taught. I think what lacks, which makes it harder for the older generation to invest and pour into us, is because we're not humble enough to take the counsel that they give us, even though we do not understand it sometimes. Because as Apostle has mentioned, sometimes they've been through it, they know it, and they're able to see beyond what we see now. So the wisdom and the humility of us young leaders is to trust their experience, to borrow from their experience. Take a point in case of
Yeah.
Samuel when God spoke to him, and he went to Eli and said, "Did you call me 3 times?" And he didn't
Yes.
just rush and go and say, "God umbizile." It's like, no, he went to Eli. And Eli was able to teach him, what you know, when he speaks, I think that's God. This is how you respond. Say, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." So I think we need that humility,
Yes.
as great as we feel, as much as we hear from God, to go to our seniors in terms of leadership and submit to what we are hearing from God so that they can test it. So humility, I believe, is very important from us younger leaders.
Oh, thank you, Mzwandile, because I think this is what we need. Both the young and the older, the old leaders, they need to own up. You know, we should avoid judging each other, and
Absolutely.
just say this young person has never been 21. This is they've never been 20. I've been 21 before, so I need to understand what they are going through. But at the same time, younger leaders must understand I have never mentored you at 21. I've been mentoring you maybe at 15. So this is a new thing for me to have you at 21.
Yeah.
So we need to be patient with each other. All right. So the
I
last
think one of the
question.
things, Apostle, I don't know, maybe we'll
Yeah.
talk about it at the conference.
Yeah.
When you share your leadership journey, you were very young when you started leading. I think you were around your high school, 18, 19. And I remember pictures you were
I was
showing
17. I was
17.
17.
I remember
Yes, I
last
was
year when we
17.
went to your school and you were showing me Nagulab and Konang Shumayan, and I'm looking at your pictures, Nabo Pastor, and I'm like, you were 17 and that's when you started. I remember it been Babim Fuselelo, Hembok, stuff like that. And I'm
Yeah.
looking at Lentole Esikulmanga, the gap now of a 17-year-old when you look at the texture of leadership and the boldness for standing for God. And I think it's one of the things that we need to, I don't know what is missing or what along the way has been lost.
There's
Yes, sir.
nothing missing. I think maybe we need to have a session to talk about this. There's nothing missing. I'll tell you what. I said to the guys in Centurion, we don't want to come hard on the young people. We got married at 24, 25. Okay. When we were 20, a lot of us were out of our parents' houses. And now this generation, they are still home at 29, at 30, and there's no harm in that. They feel like it's normal. So things have changed. I was actually watching a YouTube a video about men who build America, people like Andrew Carnegie,
Yes.
people like Rockefeller. These guys at the age of 13, they were already doing business. They were distributing newspapers. Their families were poor that they were starting to work. Women were getting married at the age of 15, 16. And now things have changed. A 12-year-old, a 14-year-old now is still a baby, but a then in the late 80s, in the beginning of the 90s, 1901, 1902, a 15-year-old was a fully fledged man who could go work and help their families after the Great Depression. So a lot has changed, and it will be much easier for us to point fingers at this the generation that is coming after us. But I think the best thing is for us to ask questions. What has changed? What is the shift? And once we do that, we will know how to navigate this season. But pointing fingers, it's not solving the problem. It's not. I am honest, because it's everywhere. It's not somebody's kids, it's my kids, it's somebody's kids, and it's like normal. Mzwandile. And if we don't find out what has happened, there's a book I read. It talks about the swing of a pendulum. So the way the pendulum has swung, we need to understand the times and say we are living in these days. What do we do?
What do we do?
What do we do?
No,
I
I
hope
absolutely.
we've answered you.
No, you have.
So the last question that we're gonna take quickly before we close is, MCC Engineering says, what strategic leadership habits should I develop now that will help an entrepreneur to grow, scale business, and prepare for a larger business in the future? Strategic leadership habits. Um, I can just mention two quickly. You need to have a clear vision. You need to have a clear vision. It's very important. That's the habit. Make sure that you have a clear vision, and your vision is as clear as wearing spectacles that you can see better. And then number two, you must learn to think long term. Every day when you wake up, do small things, but those things must link to the long term. Number three, make sure that you invest in yourself. You read in line with the kind of business you want to have in the future. Prepare yourself thoroughly. And then lastly, build strong relationships. There's a proverb. Some call it a Chinese proverb, but I don't know. But there's a popular proverb this day. They say if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. So
Yes.
build strong relationships. That will really help. I don't know whether you want to add something, Mzwandile.
No, I think you've literally articulated. I'll just maybe double click on something you mentioned, which I think is key. If you're gonna scale anything, how you need to invest in yourself, because your business, whatever it is that you do, will grow to the size of your leadership acumen or growth. John Maxwell puts it as the law of the lead, because if you become a lead, so I think the first investment is to invest in yourself, as you mentioned, through reading, through exposure, through having a long-term view and a clear vision. I believe that's going to be very important. So it starts with you. So it starts in building your emotional intelligence, and starts, yeah, I think the focus really would be part of the strategy is investing in yourself as much as you can. That will enable you to invest in the people that you have in your business, to invest in the assets that you have in your business. But it starts with you.
Well, thank you very much, Pastor Mzwandile, for making time to come share with us. And we want to thank all of you guys that have logged on. We're looking forward to see you. The conference is starting on Thursday, the 24th. You can register online. You can click the link. It will take you to the registration form. And we're looking forward to see you. Invite your friends if you're a pastor. If you bring 10 people from your church, you will get a big discount. We're excited. We'll be having a lot of people who will be doing exhibition, even for those business people who want to do exhibitions for their businesses. You can contact the office at 013 656 2211. 013 656 2211, or you can email our office at reception@gwci.org.za or admin@gwci.org.za. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Pastor Mzwandile.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Apostle, and thank you so much to everyone who was part of this conversation. We look forward to seeing you. You mentioned the 24th being the Thursday, Apostle. Just to double check, is it starting on the Friday?
No, it's Friday. It's Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We look forward to meeting and engaging